Lend me your ears.
This nation will rise up.
Welcome to the Elemental Health Podcast. Guys, welcome to episode 3. Now, this is a little bit different to the first few episodes that I've recorded for this podcast, but I just wanted to give you a sneak peek behind the scenes of what goes on in my coaching groups that I have, and the work that I'm doing within the coaching space, and this specifically is around mindset. So this is a module, 4 parts to this module. This is the last part where I'm trying to deliver to my client base a webinar which outlines the tools and tactics they need to get their mind and their mindset into a strong state of mind, so they're able to action every day on their goals and get the results moving forward. There's lots of reasons why we don't do that. Because of our mindset, and it lets us down constantly, repeatedly, and predictably. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to disrupt what's going on within the client mind, and I just wanted to give you a sneak peek behind the scenes. So this is just one module of 4 that I delivered a little while ago, and it's in a webinar format, but I've edited it down, so hopefully it's just the kind of the good bits, if you like, the nuts and bolts, and trying to streamline it as much as possible for you guys, and just something a little bit different to give you an idea of what goes on under the hood, as it were, a little bit at a deeper level from my coaching perspective. Yep, and the sort of content that I try and impart across to the guys that I coach. And the first 3 parts, we'll touch on it in the podcast, but the first 3 parts are a higher level, and I'm trying to take them through a system of learning to try and unpick what's going on and why they're not getting their results. Awesome. I hope you enjoy it. Guys, welcome. Hopefully you can all hear me. And welcome to part 4 of the Iron Mindset coaching program. So we have had sessions 1, 2, 3, and this is session 4. And every single session I've tried to deliver to you the most impactful aspects of what I believe is what I've systemized into the Iron Mindset coaching program. Now, it is fundamental that we understand what's going on in our heads in order for us to take appropriate action and discover where we want to actually get to. And fundamentally, the underlying principle is about raising awareness. That's kind of, in a nutshell, what we're trying to achieve, and what I'm trying to lead you to with every single part of this program. And we started off with the high level stuff, and each session we're bringing it down a step. This session, we're going to look at some tools, some actions, and some processes, psychological processes you can go through to help you to unpack everything we've delivered in session 1, 2, and 3, so you can actually implement the massive changes that you want, and you can actually make those breakthroughs and get through the challenges that you're having in your life. And that's where we need to get to. That's not to say that session 1, 2, and 3 weren't important. Fundamentally, we need to understand what's going on. So we need the understanding at the higher level. We can't just dive in with the tools because we don't have the requisite understanding to raise our awareness. So just using the tools won't get us far enough. And just to recap, so session 1 was all around identifying our beliefs, our belief structures, and more importantly, about identifying our limiting beliefs. And we had an exercise about that I gave you guys to go and take away. And that's kind of the start of the process. That's starting to find out who we are, what's going on in here, what we're emotionally driven by, what charges us, what gets us through each day, and what is the direction that we're currently going in versus the direction that we want to go in, and why is there a difference between those trajectories. And it all starts with understanding the belief systems that's going on and the underlying limiting beliefs that's stopping us moving forward. We then looked at the identity, and linked to identity is our stories and the narrative that we have every single day, the narrative that's going on in our head, and the stories that we tell ourselves. And that's daily we've got that narrative happening, and that is coupled with the limiting beliefs. That is why we're not able to move forward, because we make a decision around a goal, and then we start to take action towards a goal or the result, a desired outcome. But as soon as or within 5 to 10 seconds of making that decision towards that desired outcome, we very quickly, so within 5 to 10 seconds, we're starting to put excuses and stories in our head and in between us and the goal. And those are the stories that we tell ourselves: why we can't go to the gym today, why we can't go for a run today, why we need a McDonald's this afternoon, why we need a bag of cookies on the way home. That's all the narrative, that's all the stories that's causing us to kind of fall off the path, as it were. And then we started to unpack that stuff a little bit. So that's kind of the level one, is the beliefs. Then we bring it down to the identity that's linked to those beliefs, and then bring it down again to the stories that we tell ourselves. Those were the first couple of sessions. And then the last session 3, we looked at the flipping that around and actually starting to understand the actions we need to take and the habits that we need to develop to get us moving in the right direction. So session 1 and 2 was about getting that understanding, and session 3 was about identifying the habits required for us to reach peak performance, for us to truly develop and get the iron mindset that we need to overcome all the challenges that we have in life. And no one is exempt from having challenges. No one has an easy path, and some people you might see and think, oh, they've had it easy, or they've had a slightly different path to me, and that's why I'm struggling. Well, that's a narrative, that's a story, and that, if in fact, take it up again as a limiting belief as to why you can't do something and they can. We've got the neuropathway set up, the negative neuropathway set up. They're like motorways in our brain that are going to take us constantly to that negative space, to thinking they can do it, but I can't because of X, Y, and Z. Those pathways are so steeply ingrained in our brain, and they just happen. It just happens so quickly. Whereas the path to success and happiness and the positive belief structures that we need is much more like a gravel track that winds around over lumps, through holes, through water, and it's much harder to navigate, and it takes a lot longer. So the negative processes that we talk about, the negative stories, the negative identities, the negative beliefs, the limiting beliefs, they're like motorways that run through our brain, because we're wired from the reptilian brain. We're wired from the limbic system. We're wired to survive. And that's how our brains developed, from that reptile mindset of just surviving. So we see everything as a threat. So it's much easier to see things in a negative light. And that's why we've developed through our course of our lives those negative pathways, those negative motorways that run through. And what we're trying to do with all this good work to live a healthier, happier, stronger life, we need to undo those motorways. We need to undo those negative pathways, and we need to start developing this dirt track to success, to positivity, to getting where we want to get to living a stronger, healthier, happier life. We need to start to get those tracks, those dirt tracks, and we need to start to pave them. We need to start to get the roller out. We need to start straightening them out and getting them into smooth lines, and building motorways to our successes, to our dreams, to our goals, to our desired outcomes, and not go down the very easy 3-lane highway to all the negative shit that we've got going on. and drop all that stuff, drop all that baggage, and move in a completely different direction. And that's fundamentally what we're here to do, what we're here to learn about. So the habits, not that I've defined, although I find them very, very, I find this stuff absolutely to be true. But the three habits that we identified, and that's where we're going to start off again, is going through those three habits, and then underlying tools to get us those habits are the science-backed stuff that we know to be inherent and developed by the top peak performers. So the guys that and girls that are having real success in life have cultivated these habits, and they're not God-given. They're not born with them. No different to I'm no different to you in terms of my starting point. And it's not a case of I haven't got X, Y, and Z. It's about developing the habit and developing the culture, and that's what we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of on this session. Good. Hopefully the rants and the raving that I'm doing is getting through to you, and my mission in this session is really just to impart some tools and some thoughts, and trying to interject some ideas to get you moving forward and get you taking action, because that's what we're about. Everything I do with the coaching stuff, everything I do in life, in service to the guys that I coach, is about getting them to take action. Information is useless. It's implementation that we want. Session 3, we talked about these 3 performance habits that are crucial to success in any area of life. My area is obviously health coaching and getting guys into the best shape of their life and overcoming personal challenges in their health and in every aspect of their life. But these 3 habits are fundamental no matter what you're doing or where you're going. And this is what we talked about in session 3. So I'm just going to recap it, and then we dive straight into the tools and get into the nitty-gritty of it. So we know that in order to be successful, to overcome the challenges that we all face, we need absolute clarity. And this is an ongoing process. We need to be constantly seeking clarity in the actions that we take daily against our desired outcome. So we need to tracing it all the way back. Our desired outcome, that distant goal or result that we want, we need to be sure that we've got clear clarity over the action we take now and today and tomorrow and the next day are aligned and intentional with the outcome. And it's all about developing clarity. That is the first habit. If we're able to do that on an ongoing basis, we're constantly going to be aligning ourselves with the result, and we're going to be traveling in a straight line towards that result. And the analogy always to think about when we're talking about clarity is imagine a ship traveling from Southampton to New York. We know that ship is off course 90+% of the time. But how a degree off course, if we were to carry on that trajectory, would have you hundreds, even thousands of miles off course, just 1 or 2 degrees. Now, if we're constantly off course 90% of the time, then how do we get to our destination? Well, very simply put, we're constantly adjusting. And that's why it's no good on the 1st of January every year writing down your goals for 2019, 2018, 2017, 2016, and then just have hope, have faith. Hope is a beggar that we're going to get there by the end of the year, because we're going to be off course. We need to constantly be seeking clarity, which is realigning, readjusting, putting ourselves back on course to the result. And it's an ongoing process, and it's a daily task. So we need to sit down and realign ourselves, where we're going, what we're doing, and why we're doing it, aligned with the results. So we then talked about the second habit, which is developing energy. And this is obviously akin to the work I do and my background in the military, and turning up in the best physical shape of your life and the most energized in your life. And if we're not able to cultivate energy and develop it and transfer it, is really the correct scientific term. If we're not able to transfer energy from our external environment internally and develop a good state, a good physical state and a good mental state, and start to create energy around what we're doing, we're not able to develop the clarity, and we're not able to develop the necessity to get us moving in the right direction. So it's fundamental to the other two habits as well, and everything is interchangeable. So developing energy towards a habit and having clarity will develop energy, and having energy will develop the necessity required to move forward. And that's the third habit, is a necessity. So it's no good having a nice notion of where you would ultimately like to be, winning the lottery, what you're going to do with the money kind of attitude. We need to develop a necessity over the result. And that's about understanding that we must do X to get the result of Y. So we must run 3-4 times a week if we want to get the desired outcome of competing in a marathon in 3 months' time. We must put the training in to get the result. And it's about changing your shoulds and nice to haves, and a good idea to go to the gym today, or good idea to have a stretch, good idea to go for a walk, to I must train for 40 minutes Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday in order to get my result. So it's seeking clarity, energy, and then raising your standards to create a necessity. So changing your shoulds into musts and raising that bar up. So you have your internal code and standard is raised up, and you've created that necessity to do things. It's no good just saying, wouldn't it be nice if I lost a little bit of belly fat? You've got to make it a necessity. And the peak performers are out there, they're doing exactly that. The guys, to give an abstract example, so an Olympian isn't going around with the attitude of, I might go training today, see how I feel in the morning when I get up. No, they're planned. They know when that alarm goes off at 5, they're up and they're down the track training for the next 3 hours, because they know that they've got a necessity around that, because they've got the result in mind and they're on a path towards that result. So it's not a nice to have, it's a must have in their daily routine and their weekly routine. They've got these must haves to meet that standard. And that's the same. Any high performer, their standards are well above someone who's not hitting their desired outcomes. And it's that simple. So everyone needs to raise the bar up to what they're doing in the aspect that they need to improve in, to get to where we have to develop that necessity. And I give you the example of exercise and health because it's one that we guys relate to, because that's kind of my content is around health and fitness and nutrition and that stuff. But you can develop it in any aspect. You could say you've got a necessity to have a better self-awareness, because it's going to develop the relationships that are most important to you. You might have a necessity to be in the office at 8 every morning, because 8 till 9 the phone's not going to ring, and you're able to work on the project that after 9 o'clock never gets worked on, because you're busy, you're distracted, you're doing the day-to-day stuff. You're not able to work on your business. You're stuck in your business. So you need to develop a necessity to get there that hour early, to do that bit of work you're doing first before everything else overtakes you and you get sucked into the day-to-day movements that your organization has. Some different examples there, moving just outside the health sphere, because I think it's important not to get sucked into too much down one road, if you like, and just understand that this is a completely holistic way to look at your whole life. So that's kind of what we've covered in a nutshell. That's what we covered. That's where we will need to get to. And what I want to dive into now is some very simple tools and comments that I've got around these 3 habits to hopefully turn some lights on, have some light bulb moments for you guys, so you actually starts to click together, and the high level stuff starts to come down a peg or two, and you start to interpret it in your own way, start to develop your own ideas around this stuff, and you're able to action it and take action moving forward. Building leverage is a really fundamental part of everything that we talked about when it comes to implementing stuff. And ultimately, it's the secret to implementing the new habits that we've discussed, and it's the key to implementing change. Is to build leverage on yourself, and what we know, and I've mentioned it already, is that information is useless. We need to have implementation. And the comment that I always smile and laugh at, because it's so apt, is the comment that I've heard Les Brown use. And if information alone is all that we would needed, we'd all be skinny, rich, and happy. So information isn't enough. We need implementation, and in order to implement, we need to build leverage on ourselves. And the way to do that is to really dive into the pain points and understand why this isn't why you're not happy with your current situation, and what the problems are, what the challenges are, and how you're feeling pain, and the pain that you need to move away from. That's going to create leverage, and the more you can do that, the easier it is to flick the switch and make those changes and develop those habits and move forward. So, an example might be, you're going to sit down with a pen and paper, and you might put, I want to get as physically healthy as I can at this stage of my life, because, and then we're going to fill that gap with a pain point, because if I don't, this is what's going to happen. That's how we develop the leverage that we need. Might sound a little bit negative, but it's so crucial to get us moving forward. If I was going to get in the best shape of my life, the first 3 things I would stop doing would be fill in the gap. That's a pain point. That's going to create leverage. That's going to get us thinking, I have to take action. Straightforward, but absolutely crucial, and can be quite a hard thing to do, because we like to avoid pain. We're built to avoid pain, and the uncomfortable, and the hard stuff, and that's what's tough. But truly, believe me when I say this, and I know I've repeated it. The everything you want in life, all the rich offerings that life has got for you and got in store for you, lies outside your comfort zone. Lies outside that kind of comfortable, I don't want to worry about it, I want to turn the heating up a little notch, and sit in and watch telly. Everything you want intrinsically, the better relationships, the greater wealth, the greater physical prowess, all that stuff sits outside your comfort zone. There's no 2 ways about it. So leverage is absolutely key. Habits are really hard to change. And that's why we need to cross that pain threshold, understand it, and utilize it to create the leverage to cross that pain threshold and get us moving on to the outside of our comfort zone, and into a sort of new sphere. Building identity. So build identity. And this is around that vision of yourself, that aspirational vision of yourself that you're moving towards. The clearer, and it's all developed on the habit of clarity, the clearer we can identify that person, that version of ourselves, the easier it is to see that and take action towards that. And it goes hand in hand with the first tool, with the first tool, because finding the pain points and building leverage goes hand in hand with looking at the identity and what's pulling us forward. So what's pushing us, painfully pushing us away from the current situation that we want to change. And then the identity that's pulling us forwards, that awesome version of yourself, and clarity over that identity and how we're going to move towards that, and what it means, and what that person would do, what they would think, what decisions they would make on a daily basis. That's what I mean when I said building this identity. So it's going through and basing your decisions now on the decisions of the identity that you're looking to create. So it's kind of future pacing, if I use that term. It's future pacing your current decision making against this awesome version of yourself that you are holding up and saying, this is the person I want to be. These are their values, and based on their values, these are the decisions they would make. So I am now going to make those decisions. Today, I'm going to make all my decision making. I'm going to base all my decision making on that version of myself, that awesome version of myself that I'm moving forward to. So what that does, along with the pain points that we just talked about, what that does is that inhibits us from making poor choices, because we know that the awesome version of ourselves wouldn't make those poor choices. And fundamentally, life is about the choices we make. You know, we all live in an amazing environment full of opportunities and full of decisions, also full of distractions. But it's really choice that sets us apart from the weaker, stronger version of ourselves. It's the choice that moves us forward. And building that identity is absolutely crucial. So that's the second tool, and I want you guys to really think about and start to envisage, and the exercises will follow to try and develop that identity of yourself as well. And the third tool I'm going to talk about is also absolutely crucial to developing the habits. And that's building a community. So if you're engaging with me and you're in my Facebook group, you're part of a community. And the stronger the connection to that community, the stronger the connection to the version of yourself that you're trying to attain and the challenges that you're trying to overcome. And what we know about this aspect is it is the most important aspect of the whole piece, really, because our identity is built around the community that we've grown up in, the community that we live in, and how we interact with that community has created our identity. And it's the biggest single identifier of the decisions we make. And Seth Godin says something that always just brings us home to me. And his comment is, people like us do things like us. So what he means by that is we are effectively our decisions and how we interact with that community. So the biggest influence in our identity is the associations we have with the environment that we live in. And that fundamentally is the communities that we're part of and we associate with. And our decision making, as hard as it is to sometimes understand and believe, our decision making is based on the communities that we've been part of our whole life. And you know, if we have an identity of, you know, I'm the sort of person, for example, that goes to the pub every Friday afternoon after work because that's my identity. Well, it's because of the community that you're part of and the way you interact with that community that you want to do those things. And the easiest way to make a change, and you see this with children, it's a really common one with children, you stick them in a different community a different environment with different kids doing different things, and they're malleable, so malleable that they will straight away start to change the way they interact, change the way their habits are formed, and start to do things very, very differently. I know from myself, so I was an immigrant brought to the UK at the age of 6, was mainly speaking Greek. I did speak English, and then I came out to boarding school in England and sort of dumped in at 6 years old, and told not to speak English and sorry, not to speak Greek, and sort of interact with my community, and the change from a sort of Greek village boy, if you like, running around in bare feet to a school in Hampshire where everyone was doing things differently, and you wore a uniform and you towed the party line. The change was almost instantaneous because I wanted to be part of that community, and it was I wanted to identify with my new surroundings, and that age, you're so malleable, you're so sort of squidgy and pulled apart, and you just make the change, to the point where I actually started to forget my Greek really, really quickly, because I just wanted to go all in on this new environment, this new community that I was part of, and be accepted into that community. And that's kind of how we're wired. Sorry, that's kind of how we're wired to be. Again, it's all about survival. We want to be accepted by our community, and we'll go to any lengths to do that. If we're in a community where violence is very prevalent, then we're naturally going to have very violent tendencies because we want to be accepted in that community. If we're in a community that has a really strong faith aspect, then we're going to be much more inclined to develop our faith and interact on a spiritual level with that community. It's how we're wired to do it. It's our survival mechanism. We don't want to be seen as a lone wolf. It's feared, intrinsically feared in our DNA to do that, because if we actually do that, we won't be part of that community, and we won't be able to survive. And that's kind of where we get that from. So what we end up doing is we limit ourselves because of our surroundings, because of the community we associate ourselves with. And that obviously is intrinsically linked to our identity and our beliefs. And we create this little bubble. And that's currently what we've got, really. If we talk about the wider world and the statistics that we get thrown out every now and again around obesity, massively on the increase, and health is massively on the decline. People are getting fatter and more unhealthy every single day in the Western world. We know that. And the why is because we've socialized these decisions, and we've created communities where it's accepted to take the really easy option when it comes to diet, to be really inactive, to have a nice warm environment, and to not really push ourselves when it comes to being active and taking exercise seriously, and we don't interact with nature enough. All those factors we've socialized, and we've made them acceptable, and part of our community and part of our identity is linked to that. So we now have a situation, and we all face it to a certain extent. Some of you guys who are facing challenges around your health will for sure be facing this even more, because it's so fundamental, but it gets overlooked all the time. We've created this community around us that says it's okay not to do any exercise. It's okay to eat burger chips every day. It's okay to watch 4 hours of telly every day. And if we look to the Western world, that is, there's no argument. That is what's happening. So we socialize that into our community. It's become intrinsic to our community, and it's fed by all these billion-dollar brands who are very good at getting in here and changing the way we sort of behave. We've built that community. We've made those acceptable things, and that's kind of where we are. So to then go outside that and make changes to your life that are actually going to improve your health, you're going to feel like the lone wolf, the outlier, and it's very, very difficult to go through that process. and be that person, step outside the bubble. It's really, really difficult because we're not wired to do it. I talked about those motor neurons, those neurons and the pathways and those motorways, the dirt tracks. Well, it's very difficult to step outside the bubble and start going down a dirt track when it comes to your health and fitness if the community around you doesn't support that. And what I'm saying is, on a global scale, it doesn't, statistically. So that's really important to sort of understand that aspect of it. And in order to turn this around into a tool that's going to help us have these positive, awesome habits moving forward, we need to find and interact with and engage with and identify with the community that is going to pull us in the right direction. And that might mean breaking connections with, breaking relationships, breaking connections with communities that don't support don't support and don't promote the ideas that you know are going to get you moving towards your desired outcome, your desired result that you've got clarity over. And that's a really important point as well, because we need to understand what's holding us back, and the community aspect of that, and the relationships that are holding us back, and how to develop a new community of people that we can interact with, that we can socialize our ideas and our acceptance with, in order to move towards our desired outcome, towards awesome health, towards living the happiest, strongest, healthiest life that we can. And I've tried to create that with the Facebook group, but online is always a little bit at a distance, and it's very easy in the online sphere to be a voyeur, to just pop in and say, oh, that's quite interesting, and then it gets dropped, and 10 minutes later you're down the pub, or you're down McDonald's, you're down the fish and chip shop, making effectively poor decisions for your health, because you're socializing within your actual real community, and the online stuff is a step removed, and we all become a little bit of voyeurs, just to drop in and out. Oh, that's interesting, but interest is one thing, taking action is something completely different. So we need to develop those communities and really have an enhanced community of people that we are constantly interacting with. Can be online, but face to face again is awesome. It was always gonna win out, because we need to see and feel and tangible things in front of us for them to seem real. And also, when we're kind of in the online sphere nowadays, there's just so many distractions, and we're constantly being distracted distracted against everything. So, so that's kind of where I am with that one, and that's the third tool that's going to get you moving forward towards these three awesome habits that we need, as defined by science, as backed by evidence, to be a peak performer, to race through those challenges and to develop an incredible life. And that's my goal for you guys. Awesome. So that was the nuts and bolts of what I wanted to deliver to you guys today. And I'm going to recap that, and I'm going to finish this 4-part series with a few comments of my own, and give you an opportunity, if you want to take it, to engage with me further, and take it forward in that regard. Awesome. So today, we've raised our awareness, and we started to unpack the identity, got a typo there, beliefs and stories. I've shown you the 3 habits will get you moving towards your goals and are fundamental to you developing a stronger, healthier, happier life. There's loads of typos. And then I took it down a step again and gave you some tangible tools, a toolkit of those 3 tools to start you moving towards those the 3 habits, get you moving forward. I'll get my notes. So that's kind of what I wanted to deliver to you guys today. And I've written the comment there that is not my quote. You're either a master of your cause, or you're a bitch to its effect. And I couldn't believe that more. You either take control and you're stepping forwards, or you're just subject to the things that happen. You're reactive to your environment, and your decision making is largely impaired because you're constantly on the back foot. Yeah. So the comments I want to make before we move, before we wrap this up, then, guys, and this is how I want to sort of wrap the series up, just by saying, a couple of my sort of key learning points throughout this program, and stuff that I always go into detail on when I'm doing my one-on-one coaching, and when I speak to my clients, and trying to get them help them to move through the challenges and the issues that they're having in their life in a really short space of time. And this is kind of the hard truth, if you like. This is the reality of the situation. If we break it down and just remove all the BS and all the bullshit that we like to have a pretense around, and it's fundamental to understand that there is no shortcut to understanding yourself and finding a way through all the bullshit that your brain and the programming you've got is constantly throwing in your path. And those are the stories, those are the limiting beliefs that are always going to hold you back. We have to find a way through that, and there's no shortcut. And the quote I absolutely live by is do not fear the work that has no end. You can't get through this by thinking it's a one shot, one kill sort of situation, and I'll spend an hour on my mindset and then I'll just go and work out or go and do something else, because this is a constant process that we're always going to be working on. And there will always be resistance to change, and a different version of yourself. You're always going to find friction there. There's no two ways about it. And that's what I was saying when it's about getting outside your comfort zone. That's when you feel the friction. And actually, it's a good thing. It's telling you something's working. That pain, that suffering, that friction you're feeling on a daily basis is helping you move forward. And staying outside your comfort zone is where you need to be. The societal norm is where you get sucked in, and those choices become very, very poor. We need to move away from that. And that's when we kind of get told that we should look like this, we should do this, we should do that. But we need to cut the noise out, cut the distraction out, and make those decisive decisions that's going to get us moving forwards. And life is a series of events. We choose what we focus on. And by turning up for this training, you're taking a massive step towards choosing to understand, raise your awareness. And that's incredibly powerful. So well done. Thank you for being courageous in taking that step forwards. Now it's time to take the next step and start implementing some of the stuff that I've been talking about. And don't just be a sort of voyeur online. Actually start implementing some change in your life and feeding that back to me, because I want to know that this stuff is actually having an impact. And that's my goal, is to have an impact on your life. It's not just about me spouting a load of shit and you sort of liking it or not liking it. It's about you taking action to get you guys moving forward. And that's the only way, and that's the only purpose of me putting the stuff out there. And just be aware that we're so conditioned. We're told to think that whatever we do is not necessarily the right thing, and there's so many different choices out there, and there's just overload of X, Y, and Z, and so much of it is just noise and distraction. And what happens is, when we have so much noise and distraction, the choices we make are very, very poor, because we're overwhelmed by choice. So we tend to go for the path of least resistance. Again, it's a human psychological failure, for want of a better word. We're unable to cut through the noise, so we just go off on a tangent. And I want to leave this session by saying that you need to invest. You need to invest in your health. And I don't spend time on motivation, as I want to deliver long-term tactics, and that's what I've tried to put together in this coaching program that you guys are getting for free as a test bed for the platform that I'm on. So thank you for that. I don't spend time on motivation. I want to deliver long-term tactics that will lead to the finish line. But to get you started, you need to be relentless. Understand that nothing worth having in this world is easy. And you need to take your force of will and make things happen. So you need to find motivation. You need to find the kindling, the fire starters that's going to get you moving forward. And if you follow everything that I'm saying and interact with me, you will be able to do that because I've given you the tools to get moving in the right direction. So just needs a bit of force of will, a bit of decisiveness to stick to a path, choose and stick to a path, and start moving in the right direction. Start taking massive action towards your goal. And that's what we're about. No more information, no more interests, no more X, Y, or Z, no more doubt, no more overwhelm. Just start taking one path, action, step after step after step on one path, and start implementing all the bits and pieces that we've talked about. So, how was that for you? Like I said, a little bit different to the normal format, but I just wanted to throw it in there to give you guys a little bit of a peek under the hood, deeper dive on some of the coaching elements that I use in my practice, and get you guys kind of thinking about mindset, identity, beliefs, and maybe enable you to look at some of those tools and tactics that we talked about and implement those in your life, to get those behaviors that you desire and are going to bring you a fulfilled, healthy, stronger, happier life. Hope it was good for you guys. As normal, please subscribe, iTunes, Stitcher, all that good stuff. Leave us a review. It helps a huge amount, and I really appreciate it. And I will see you on episode 4. It's going to be a bomb. We've got Richard Mujica from Onward Men, and he is pumped to talk to us about everything that he's doing in the health space. Awesome. Take care. See you on the next one.